Okay, I think for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to the AOD Partnership Meeting for the month of April. We're really excited. We think we've got a great program that's going to happen here today. Our meeting topic is adverse childhood experiences, and looking at that study and how some of those experiences in childhood can impact the future health of our community. So before we get to that, though, we do have a couple things on our agenda that I just want to kind of glean over a little bit. You have copies of the agendas in the minutes in front of you. The minutes should be on the back side. What's important about the minutes, if there is corrections or anything like that, definitely let us know. But one of the things that I need to point out before I pass this around is we do a sign-in sheet because we'd like to track how much in-kind that we have in our community. How much time are people donating to the work that we do. So please make sure that you always sign in. It's very important to us. If you're a guest or you haven't been here before, sometimes we just run out of space. If you don't find your name on the printed list, make sure you sign in on the guest list on the back. And on every time we have a sign-in, we have a question. And this time is actually, we're going to be doing some outreach to some of our local organizations to look for sponsorships to bring in a national speaker to talk about drug trends in the community. We're really excited. He's actually traveled and been in Wisconsin before. His name is Officer Jermaine Galloway. So if you have any ideas of where some of this outreach could, like where we could do it, check yes, no, maybe. Write down in the comments maybe some organizations you think would be supportive of youth prevention efforts that you may know. Because I may call in and be like, do you know anybody at this organization to help us kind of get an in there? So we'll start with the sign-ins. We don't have a treasurer's report, but again, that always ends up in the minutes. So if you're ever interested to see what's in our coffers, if you will, and also the links for the previous meeting for the recording. So if you missed it and you want to view it, they're always available online for free. You can view them at our YouTube channel. As far as some of the things that are bulleted, the Spotlight event was fantastic. It was held on March 19th. All the pictures we actually just got in. So they're going to be posted onto our Facebook page soon. So if you haven't liked our Facebook page, I suggest you like it. And we're going to find a way to share it with you through our weekly update, our email that we send out. There's also, as part of this year's event, we actually put together a 6-minute video to look back on the successes of 2014. I think it's really cool. It kind of breaks it down by month. It's got clips from the news. It's got clips from our meetings. It's really kind of a neat, short video. Again, it's on our YouTube channel. I would suggest highly checking it out. There's also extra programs from the event. So if you missed it and you want to check out kind of what happened that night, it was fantastic. We actually have one of our award winners here with us, gracing us, Deb Hager, right there. She's one of our winners this year. But we had 5 winners of our Spotlight Award, and it was just such a great event. I would suggest if you missed it, pick one of these up. And included in here is also the in memoriam that we've done for Dr. Tom Peterson and Dave Selzer, who are founding members of the AOD Partnership. They were great guys, lots of laughs. So a little bit about them in their own words. It's really a neat document, and those are available also on the website if you go to the Spotlight event part of our calendar. Each of you should have a copy of our 2014 annual report. We just got those hot off the presses right before our event, actually. There's extra copies up here if you work with a board or an oversight committee, or if there's anybody that you feel should know a little bit more about the AOD Partnership does. We've got extra copies up here as well. If you haven't completed your partner survey, that's been going out in the weekly update for about a month. We'd like to hear from you. We need to know that we're still meeting your needs. We want to know what kind of things that you want to learn more about. And we want to make sure that you're getting out of it, being involved with this, as much as you possibly can. So please, even if you only come to meetings, even if you even get the weekly updates, all that feedback is really helpful to us. I included in here what's happening with the stats because I know we haven't met as our short-term action teams in a while, But I do want to put out there that though we haven't had any formal meetings, if your organization or where you work with or your church group or women's group or whatever has something going on that you think that things like our pushback materials or AOD partnership items, or if you're looking for a speaker for some of your the things that you have going on within your organizations, reach out. You don't have to wait for us to come to you. If you have a need, or if you're looking for specific information, reach out and we can try to connect you. And that's really a way that we can keep our community moving forward, even if we're not having those formal meetings. When we do schedule some of those meetings, though, we will for sure make sure that they're on our weekly update, so then you know when those are taking place. Make sure that if you have to leave early, or when you leave at the end, make sure you fill out your evaluation forms, because that's something that it's part of what's in front of you now. Hopefully you all have packets. If you don't, there's extra materials up front here. But make sure you fill those out, because those are not only important for our funders. All that information is confidential, obviously, unless you put your name on it, then not so much. But it really helps us to justify having people pay or having people invest in us to be able to keep doing these kind of programs for you. A couple more things off the announcements, just to make sure that we cover them before we move on to Becky with St. Anthony's Retreat. The next Western Marathon County meeting is next Wednesday. Did you pick a location yet? No. Working on the location yet. That will be again put out in the update once we have it. If you want more information, you can always contact Erin or myself. We are again partnering with Marshwood Clinic and AmeriCorps. Sarah in the corner there. Sarah is helping pull together the Guiding Good Choices program. It's actually an evidence-based program, specific, looking at kids from 4th through 8th grade. And it really helps kind of not only start that conversation about alcohol and other drugs, but also keep it going and make it a part of what happens in your home, within your professional realm as well. Our speaker, or our trainer, is actually Lori Blanchard from North Central Healthcare, and we've looked at this program because there's such great components, but we think that professionals or anybody that works with youth in general could benefit from this training. And you do get CEUs available. They are free, which is unheard of these days. So I suggest that says Saturday.
Yeah, it's Friday.
It's Friday. Yeah. I just looked, I'm like, wait a minute. So yes, it's Friday, April 24th. And it's going to be at the health department. Lunch is included, materials are included. So again, it's a free program. It doesn't have to be just for children between 4 through 8, but if you work with youth, or if you have, if you're a parent or foster parent, it might be something that's beneficial for you to look at. We're partnering again with Rasmussen College to bring an educational session to the community. This one's going to be looking at gangs in Wisconsin. Real excited about this speaker. I've heard great things about him. Comes out of the Milwaukee area. Again, this is another free event. It's in the afternoon here in Wausau. Don't have the date on there. Just awesome. It's the 22nd of April. I failed when I put these announcements together this time. But it's the 22nd of April, and there's information on our website about that. And then finally, North Central Healthcare, one of our community partners, previously had a day treatment program or intensive outpatient program. They reopened that program as of 4/1. These are just some of the interventions and techniques that they use there, and it has the time. So it's another opportunity for our community to have access to treatment. So we just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. And again, more information about this is available. If you request it, I can make sure that you get it. Erin, did I miss anything?
Nope.
One more thing. It's kind of goes in the partner updates. Every year, pretty much every year, I shouldn't say that because I think last year was the first year there wasn't one, is a Wisconsin Prevention Conference. And those conferences are a great way for you to learn more about some of the latest things in alcohol and drug abuse, but it's also a way for you to connect with people across the state. There are scholarships available for that. The scholarship applications are due at the end of the week. It will be going out again through the update, so if you have more information on that, you can let me know and I can forward your information on. But the scholarship includes registration, and it also includes one hotel stay. It's down in the Dells, so it's not too far away, but it's a great learning opportunity, and our coalition, the AOD Partnership, as well as Western Marathon County Healthy Communities, have available scholarship funds. So another again, free opportunity to get some of those continuing education credits. With that, is there any other partner updates? Anything else people want to share? Okay. There is additional handouts up here and extra copies of the handouts that you have in front of you. So if you want to leave with more copies, all the handouts from today are loaded online on our website, aodpartnership.org/calendar. If you look at the meeting appointment, then you actually can download all these different things or share them electronically as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Becky, who's going to tell us about St. Anthony's Serenity Retreats. If you want to hang out on that side, I'll get your call.
Sure, thanks. Good morning to all of you. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you, Melissa. The reason for me being here is to introduce you to a local, perhaps unknown, underutilized historic treasure that's located out in Marathon City that was built almost 100 years ago as a Catholic seminary. And so for nearly 100 years, it has been run by Catholic Capuchin friars as a house of studies, theological studies. And in the 1970s, while I did not bring my PowerPoint presentation that would give you a chronological history of the place, I would just say that in the 1970s, as the number of Capuchin friars was dwindling, especially able-bodied ones, the Capuchin province of St. Joseph made the decision to relocate the remaining Capuchins that were there to a more urban setting so they could have more of a broad-based experience in preparing for the priesthood. And so St. Anthony's Spirituality Center at that point in time became a retreat center. And it operated that way until 2013, when again the Capuchin province of St. Joseph made a very difficult decision to withdraw the remaining friars from St. Anthony's. And so the retreat presentation that I'm about to share with you this morning is really specifically geared to the benefits of a spiritual retreat. And more specifically, as you will see in one of the handouts that I have before you, the benefits, in this particular case, tying in with the AOD Partnership, the benefits of being on one of our Serenity retreats or our AA Al-Anon retreats. You will see those dates in the brochure that does talk about our Serenity retreats and those that are upcoming. As well, sometimes we just do some tough issues, series of retreats or evening programs that also tie into a recovery theme. So with that, the only other housekeeping item I do want to make sure that I mention to all of you is that if you go to our website, or even it may be noted on this pamphlet as well, it may be, the cost of our weekend retreats is upwards of $175 to $195, depending, somewhere in there. That does include, 2 nights lodging, meals from Friday dinner through Sunday noon lunch, all the basics basically being covered, as well as some financial help for whoever may be the presenter for a retreat. Please don't be daunted by that. As their development coordinator, I'm actually in the process of seeking scholarship dollars that we can put into a separate designated fund and make them available for people that may have a need financially and do have the desire to be on spiritual retreat at St. Anthony's. So without further ado, let's get started, and I'm just going to try and breeze through this somewhat swiftly. If there's time when I'm done, I'm welcome to questions. Be happy to answer those. So again, St. Anthony's, just as a little point of statistics, it is the largest by square footage and capacity spiritual retreat center in the state of Wisconsin. It's actually 120,000 square feet. This is the original building that was built mostly on a square, and then in the 1960s, the Capuchins built an additional newer wing. So again, your retreat experience awaits you. Might you or someone you know be interested in a weekend of rest and renewal? A retreat provides the atmosphere and opportunity to literally step back from our normal routines, to slow down, to unwind, and renew our body, mind, and spirit. On a silent retreat, the environment fosters solitude, rest, certainly personal reflection, of course silence, and time for prayer. A retreat can also offer a unique experience of community with those who are also attending with you. So St. Anthony Spirituality Center offers peaceful surroundings, a beautiful historic building with outdoor stations of the cross. It's 52 acres of wooded grounds on the shoreline of the Rib River, including a grotto. We have home-style meals, Franciscan hospitality, private retreat rooms or a larger suite, and some optional services include certified massage therapist as well as spiritual direction. So what might you expect while you're on retreat? Certainly morning and evening prayer with other retreatants, Eucharist, informative and inspirational talks by likely a member of our staff, a healing service, time for personal prayer and reflection, peaceful rest and relaxation, renewal and refreshment, again, for your body, your mind, and your spirit. Plenty of time to be alone, solitude. Lots of time to talk to and listen to God in your own heart. Your own private room or a larger suite with a private bath. You can visit the chapel or walk around the beautiful 52-acre property. You can walk the outdoor stations of the cross or walk our labyrinth. You can visit the bookstore or spend time in the library or in our art room. Here's a few pictures of some of the beauty at St. Anthony's. This is the fieldstone wall toward the entrance of the property, and then this is the grotto that's located closer to the river behind the main building. Here's what we look like in the winter time, very beautiful. So spiritual direction, one of those optional services that I mentioned. It is a one-on-one relationship that focuses on discovering God in the experiences of life. It's conducted with an experienced spiritual director who listens without judging and certainly keeps the sharing confidential. It is a meaningful way for persons of any tradition to attend to their spiritual care and their relationship with the divine in all of life. I highly recommend it, by the way. So when is spiritual direction helpful? Well, if you might want a deeper relationship with God, or if maybe you're questioning your faith. If you seek different ways to communicate with God, or if you may want to connect more deeply with inner wisdom. Lastly, maybe you have some restlessness that leads to a search for something more. Here's a picture of some of our private retreat rooms at St. Anthony's. This is in the original older building. So again, I mentioned before, 2013 was definitely a year of uncertainty for us. As you'll see, in the summer of that year is when the Capuchin provincial leadership decided to withdraw the friars from St. Anthony's Spirituality Center due to the advancing age, as I mentioned, and the diminishing numbers of able-bodied friars in the province. That would have effectively closed St. Anthony's Spirituality Center as of the end of that year. However, once the announcement was made, over 80 volunteers came together in prayer and discernment to discover ways to keep St. Anthony's open. So by October of that year, a nonprofit corporation called St. Anthony's of Marathon, Inc. was formed and purchased the property from the province. The leadership and management of the center transitioned to the new board of directors at the end of 2013. So last year was kind of a year of hope and transition for us. Again, beginning January 1 of last year, St. Anthony's opened with new leadership in place. A staff of 15, including an interim director and an interim spiritual leader, together with over 200 volunteers and 3 resident Franciscan community members, along with the board of directors, keeps the Franciscan spirit alive at St. Anthony's Spirituality Center. There was, and honestly still is, tremendous hope among all of us who joyfully serve the ministry at St. Anthony's. This year we see kind of as a year of progress and stability after our transitional year. A number of improvement or repair projects are now complete, yay! Many new programming, promotional, and hosting endeavors have been fruitful. So many of our retreatants attending last year have never been to the center previously. I had wanted to quantify that number for today, and I'm so sorry to tell you, 2 of the gals in our office that are pulling that number together for our annual meeting, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, don't quite have their arms around that statistic yet. But of course, grant writers and development people, we love statistics. So trust me, the next presentation I do, I'll have an actual number in there. But it's nice to see that we are definitely having an impact and welcoming new people that have never heard of or been there before. So with the year of history behind us, we are more able to operate within a budget to better manage our bottom line. We are right now at a point of critical transition in that a new director and a new spiritual leader will soon begin their leadership roles at the center. This is our pillow room on the left in one of our large conference rooms. You'll see there on the right. This is our chapel on the left, and this is one of our meeting rooms called the Assisi Room. Here's our mission statement and core values. The St. Anthony community welcomes all seeking healing, hope, and transformation through deeper connection with God, self, others, and creation. We gather to embrace and grow in Franciscan values, and they include hospitality. So we try very hard to create safe and welcoming environments where the gifts of all are cherished. Compassion, certainly being present to all people with an open and loving heart. Joyful service, respectfully addressing people's needs, transforming us all. And lastly, relationship, empowering people to realize and respect their own dignity and potential. It's a picture of our Cathedral Way. That's one of the wooded trails on the property. And then the crucifix in the cemetery. Actually, there are about a half dozen of the Capuchin friars who wanted to be laid to rest on the property at St. Anthony's. So there is a small cemetery there. This is our vision statement. It is definitely a dream for the future. St. Anthony's Spirituality Center seeks to empower people of all ages to express their spirituality in the world to effect positive change in an evolving society. We intend to do this by fostering education in faith, reverencing the spirit, the body, and the holy ground we have been given, and by reaching out to people wherever they may be in their life journey. Our fundamentally Franciscan identity creates joyful hospitality and a peaceful environment that will continue to allow our guests to experience the sacred within and around themselves. Picture on the left is our library. Picture on the right is one of our lounges. So I would invite you and certainly challenge you to step away from the ordinary of life and really truly experience the extraordinary at St. Anthony's Spirituality Center. Certainly peace and tranquility await you. Again, on the left, an overhead view of our chapel, and on the right, our newly remodeled and improved dining room. So with that, again, I thank you so very much for your time and your attention this morning. I don't want to take too much time in terms of the other presenter and what you still have on for your agenda. Melissa, are we going to hold off for any Q&A?
Is there any questions that you have right now? Anybody? I have one though.
Okay, you can.
Said I have one.
That's fine.
So my question is, so let's say there's a lot of organizations that like to do retreats.
Yes.
To do strategic planning or just bonding moments.
Mm-hmm.
That's possible here.
Absolutely,
correct?
yes.
So you don't have to do a whole weekend thing. You could do a half-day thing.
Yes, indeed. In fact, the retreat programs that you are, the one in particular, the Serenity Retreat that I've handed out the flyer for, is what we refer to as one of our sponsored retreats. But we have a number of organizations that do come in exactly as you're asking, Melissa, and they are our hosted groups. In other words, we provide the hospitality, the meals, we cover the basics, and then the organization comes in and they actually do their own program. So each of the pictures that you saw of some of our lounges or our conference room, we have a very large room that's called the Solanas Center that accommodates over 100 people. Each of those spaces are available, again, for a nominal fee for organizations to come in and maybe just remove themselves from their typical work environment or their usual space and have a very peaceful, beautiful space to have a meeting or a retreat. So, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can't go too far with this, right? Yeah. Here you go, my friend.
Get rid of some of this stuff. We'll pull up.
Can I go ahead and pull out my little jump drive?
That's what I'm going to do right now. You can set it right.
Okay.
Place right up here. Good there. eject. Oops, of course I ejected the wrong one. Hold on 1 second. Right, back. Okay, you good? You're up.
Thank you.
As I said, there are extra handouts up here, extra handouts that you're, like, for today's topic, as well as other handouts that we have developed, so, run iron key, I remember this. And
Okay,
then you gotta log in, you should be good.
Yeah, it should be.
Oh, and Paula, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself, because I forgot your bio with me.
Oh, that's fine.
So,
All right.
Paula Brown, everybody.
Easy enough. I will tell you about myself. Hi, Carolee.
Are you gonna wander?
Pardon?
Are you gonna wander?
No, I'm going to
Okay.
stay over there
Okay.
because I have to do it. But I just wanted to say, Melissa explained that she posts handouts on a website or somewhere where you can go out and grab them. So I didn't bring enough handouts, I think, for the entire room. But I do have some handouts because some people like hard copy paper things.
They have copies of that.
Okay, so you've got
They've
understanding.
got copies of that one, yep.
All right, and you got the one with the boy on the front
Yep.
and the girl in the back? All right, great.
One thing to point out, that the one with the blue band on the top, that says stress and early brain growth, there's actually 3 of those handouts available, so there's different cultural specific handouts. So depending on which population you're working with, those other handouts are available. I forgot to upload them, but those will be uploaded, all 3 of them will be uploaded to our website as well.
All right.
So the only thing they don't have is your PowerPoint if you're handing it out, and then the book.
And I do have some copies of the PowerPoint, again, for people who like to take notes.
And I'll hand out whatever you want.
Yeah, if you want to start passing those around.
Sure. Actually, I think it's probably quicker for me just to start on one side.
But again, remember, there's probably not enough for everybody, so, but if somebody keeps one of those clean, you can make copies.
But you don't, I can't put it online though, right? In our calendar?
Just not on the internet, you mean?
It would be in our AOD Partnership calendar.
Okay.
Or how about, I'll keep a clean copy, so if you don't get one, ask me and I will make a copy and I'll send it.
And I'll explain a little bit about that, why we're just being careful. Also,
Oh, in the handouts, the green and the yellow are the same handout.
yeah, it is the same.
It's the same list. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
2 different
just-
colors. You only need one. So you can pick whatever Packard color allegiance you want.
Now this one,
And that's the last one?
yeah, this one I might not have
Okay.
enough of, this one I might.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we want to
Okay.
start.
Okay, I can do that if you want to get your stuff, your thing loaded, and I'll get
She
you.
wants me to get started. right?
No, but I don't want to run out of time. There's probably gonna be questions.
All
I
right,
panic about these things.
all right.
Start half on this side.
I like someone who keeps us on
Yes, ma'am.
track. I like that, I like it.
And make sure that you sign in. So those of you in the back, make sure the sign in gets to you eventually here. Where are the sign ins? Anyone? I think they've got it. Everybody's got it? What I'll do is I will leave these up here, Paula, so if people want them, they can come up.
That's
and grab
good,
them.
that's good. Yeah, thanks.
We have enough of those.
You know, again, some of the things you're getting, you will get online. And again, the reason I say that is that some of you may be writing grants. ACE is kind of a pretty popular thing right now, and I think it's always nice to have language. So you can grab them online. It gives you all the background of what we're going to talk about. We're going to have new data for you in the future. So let me just get started. My name is Paula Brown. I'm with the Department of Children and Families. I'm in the Madison office. My title there is Prevention Initiatives Coordinator. I'm also an ACE Master Trainer for Wisconsin. So in 2014, a project was developed to have those of us that are going out and doing ACE presentations be consistent, present the same information, interpret the data the same. And so a master trainer program was created in Wisconsin, and I am one of the ACE master trainers. So I'm already using the word ACE on you, and the first slide you can see is adverse childhood experiences, understanding adverse childhood experiences, which I will call ACE and ACEs throughout the presentation. Has everyone in the room heard of ACEs? Okay, no. Okay, so for some of you, this is brand new information. Have some of you, you've already heard about this and you've been using it in your work? Anybody? All right, great. Okay, good. So the way I like to present is I have a slide presentation we're going to go through. I'm going to throw a lot of information at you, but do feel free to jump in and make comments or ask questions. You know, sometimes when you have a room full of people, and I know there are probably a lot of overachievers in here, you will be rushing ahead to the end of the story. So you may ask a question, and I'll tell you, oh, we have a slide coming up on that. But don't hesitate to ask. You know, we can take questions at any time, and I'll keep it moving and try to keep on schedule. All right, so we're here today to learn about and understand ACE. We're going to start talking about the body and the brain. And memory of our experiences is stored in our body. Does that make sense to you? Do you think that your memory is stored in your body? Do you think you carry things with you? Okay, all right. We do, and I'm going to explain the physiology behind that. So this all started with a study back in 1994, a study conducted by Dr. Anda and Dr. Folletti. It was a joint study with the Centers for Disease Control and the Kaiser Permanente, and it was involved a health clinic in San Diego. There were 17,000 study participants, and the findings were startling. And so later on, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the study and the findings, but this is where this all started. So to understand ACEs, we want to start with the brain and the physiology behind it. Now, when I was going through my trainings to become more trauma-informed and to learn more about ACEs, I actually attended some trainings where they do a huge piece on the brain, break it down by section, talk about the function of each, and that's very, very important, but I prefer to give like a layperson's presentation. So I'm going to talk to you about the brain, about the way it adapts, and why it's important to the work that we are trying to do. But sometime you might want to catch that whole bigger physiology piece. So we're going to start with the human nervous system, the central nervous system. And so you all know this. You had it in high school, you had it in college. The brain, the spinal cord, all the nerves. You know that this nervous system orchestrates our body functions and perceptions. This is going to help us understand why ACEs are so powerful. And keep in mind, this is how the central nervous system helps us understand the world and adapt to the world and respond to the world. So this is what we want to start, where we want to start. Now, I think you all know when a baby is born, the brain is not fully developed. You're aware of that? Brain development occurs throughout childhood over a period of years. And so when the baby is born, the brain develops from the brain stem forward. And so when a baby is born, it has those basic systems in place. Its heart is beating, its lungs are breathing. So those are the very, very basic things that a child is born with. Experiences grow the brain. And then the brain develops from those very base things in the human being to the more abstract thinking. Okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about the neural pathways. So you can see here at birth, I just talked to you about how the baby's brain is not fully developed. So these neural pathways are not fully developed. I also told you that the brain needs experiences to develop. It's experience dependent. And so here by elementary age, when children are having more and more experiences, you can see more and more neural pathways being developed, okay? That cross-brain communication. It's taking experiences in and it's developing these pathways. So then we get to puberty and you see that it's gotten a little finer again. And so what this is that the pathways that are used the least start to fall away. And that's called pruning. And so this is very normal development that all of us went through and children go through from birth to elementary to puberty when the pruning starts. So, understanding that about the brain, we want to look at two worlds here. So I want you to think about a baby that is born into two different worlds. And first we're going to talk about this top world, this first world. So a baby is born into an environment that is not predictable. There are threats. There's danger. So when we are feeling threat, when we feel danger, our bodies develop a stress hormone called cortisol. And the human body is designed to be under stress for about 20 minutes at a time. So that stress hormone is released, and if we go beyond the 20 minutes, if that threat state is sustained, it becomes toxic, what we call toxic stress. So during this time of heightened awareness, heightened alertness, we're trying to decide, do I fight, do I flight, do I freeze? And again, this is pretty basic stuff. You guys have had this, I'm sure, in school. And so this child is trying to decide, what am I going to do in this situation, coping. And so what this child comes through is that this child learns how to survive some pretty tough conditions, survive the worst conditions. All right, so now let's go to the second world. So this baby is born into an environment where it's pretty safe. It's pretty predictable. The adults do what the adults are supposed to do. The baby can count on the nurturing, getting those things. And so this baby is developing a viewpoint of the world and some coping skills that people, processes, possibility, can take them in stride, pretty reliable. And then this child goes on to survive the best conditions, may be vulnerable in the worst, but this baby has also developed coping skills. So the problem that we get into is when we take a child that has developed in that top world and we try to force that child into that bottom world. We want this child to react in a predictable way that we think this child is. And so that's a problem. And so what we're here today to talk about is we're here to learn that this is what we're doing. This is what kids are going through. This is their brains growing and adapting. This is how they survive. And then they come into the world and work with us and live with us and become adults. So this is what we're focusing on today. So this goes back to the brain adapting and the toxic stress that we were talking about. Now, you heard me use the word coping. And so both these kids coped, right? Both these worlds, they develop coping skills. So we don't want to say that one is bad and one is good. I think we all want our children to be raised under this world. But think about a child that is prepared for threat all of the time. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. Can you think of some places in the world, or can you think of some professions where somebody who is on edge, alert, can respond to some really stressful situations? Can you think of places or times where that might be useful?
Military.
Pardon?
In the military.
Military? Yeah. Others?
Someone who does EMS.
Pardon?
Someone who does emergency response.
Okay.
Healthcare in general.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay, very good. So those coping skills, they're valuable, aren't they? So this is the next slide. You can see what kind of situations. You've already answered some of these questions. And so this is what I want you to keep in mind as we keep going forward through this process. All right, so let's talk about adaptations versus expectations. So when biology collides with social expectations, we run into trouble. And we already talked about that, where we try to put the child from the top world into the bottom world. And so expectations, that can be expectations that a child has of the world or that adults have of the world, but it's also expectations that we have of others. And so let's think about a child from that top world that his brain is adapting, he's growing up that way, and then we send him to school. So what are children expected to do in school?
Sit still.
Sit still. Behave.
Learn.
Learn.
Listen.
Listen.
Get along with others.
Get along with others. Share. All right, so that's what's expected in school. So a child that has lived under this threat and stress and has developed that kind of coping, what is going to happen to that child? Can he sit still? Does he feel that everybody's safe? All right. So what we're here today to talk about with ACEs, as we learn to understand them more, we're going to understand how we can help those children and how we can help adults that we're working with that have been through this.
I have a question.
Of course.
When I look at the ACE statistics, or, it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, what about the child that has not an abuse like that, but has a trauma like childhood cancer, that has all the treatments and, that?
Okay.
And I don't know if you, it's from personal experience, because I've had a daughter, and stuff that has, and I'm curious.
Sure.
I mean, to me, it is an ACE, and it was an adverse childhood experience, but it wasn't an abuse.
Okay, I think that's a great question, and we'll go ahead and address that right now. First, let me say, you heard her talk about ACE, and you also heard her use the word trauma. And so one of the things I like to explain about ACE is that we do tend to use the words interchangeably, but if you get real down to the point, an adverse childhood experience may not be a trauma, but a trauma is probably always an adverse childhood experience. So we don't want to say that all children that have had ACEs are necessarily have that trauma, have to be rushed to a therapist. There is a distinction. But for the example you gave, the original ACE study just used those conditions that you're talking about. People that are applying this information now across the country have really expanded the definition of ACEs. And they have talked about the different things that may happen to a child that have a lingering effect, that have a very adverse or traumatic
I
effect.
mean, it's, when I look at the statistics, it's my 36-year-old daughter.
Sure. Yes. Well, the other things too that you won't see in the ACE test right now, but people are grabbing onto them, are bullying, how a child is made to feel about his or her body image. Trauma gets into some of the things like natural disasters, or so the list is growing about things that we need to think about in terms of impact that they have on children and why this matters later in life. So you went a very relevant place. Yeah. All right. So as the studies continue, Dr. Martin Teicher started studying the effects of maltreatment, and he studies human brain and biology, and by looking into effects of maltreatment, we learned that there are 3 variables that impact the effects of maltreatment. And that is the type of maltreatment, the gender of the child, and the age of the child at the time of maltreatment. So we're going to talk here a little bit about the brain. We're still on the brain, actually. And so the need of a child by age. So we talked about what a baby needs when it's born. So a baby needs to breathe, a baby needs to eat, a baby needs to sleep. A baby needs to connect with someone who can nurture and protect that baby. And so during this brain development, there are sensitive periods during brain development where an event may have more impact or a different impact on a child. And so during the studies, what we learned through these studies is that depending on the type of maltreatment, it can have an effect on the child. It can affect the child differently, and by effect I mean that cross-brain communication that we talked about, those neural pathways based on gender and age. And so what we found in a study of neglect is that little boys who experience maltreatment in the form of neglect when they are infants or toddlers, neglect has quite a significant impact on their cross-brain communication and those neural pathways, that development. What we learned in a study of little girls that experienced sexual abuse between the ages of 7 and 10 years, they were impacted, that cross-brain communication was impacted more so than little boys at that same age experiencing that same kind of abuse. And so as we study this, we're learning that there are different things that can impact the long-term effects of what a child goes through depending upon the type of maltreatment, the age of the child, and the gender of the child. I think one of the things that those of us who work with children and families, and particularly I'm from the child welfare system, I think that I can safely say that kids who come into the system already have one ACE. Would you agree with that? It's probably how they come to our attention, how they come to our services. And you're an alcohol and drug group, right? Is that the majority of providers in here?
It's a mix.
It's a mix. Okay. All right. And so I recognize people, of course, from Human Services. I know that you guys work with Child Protective Services or have in the past. What other kinds of people do we have in here? Do we have any home visitors, parent educators? Okay. All right.
Some foster parents, some probation and parole, students.
Okay, great. Great. So we have some foster parents in here? Excellent. That's wonderful. There are actually trainings that we're doing right now through DCF specifically for foster parents to give them this background on trauma and the children that come into their care. So I'm really glad you're here today. All right. So we have a collective choice. So one of the things we know is that we're all different. Another thing that we know, because I keep saying that, one of the things we know. Another thing we know is that we're all different. We can have an experience, and we can have the same experience as someone else, and one person can get through that experience just fine. Seems to be okay, doesn't seem to have any long-term effects. Another person can go through that same experience, and it can really take them down. It can really wipe them out. They can really have a different reaction. And so what we're trying to learn about is we're trying to learn about those people that survive and cope and do okay. And it's called resilience. And so whenever we do an ACE presentation, we want to talk to you about the brain, and we also want to talk about resilience, because I think that's where we all come in, is that we are trying to have an impact on resilience. All right, so that's about it for the brain, although it's going to come up and you're going to see its application as we go forward. Now I want to talk to you about that ACE study. That slide showed you Dr. Anda and Dr. Folletti. The green or yellow sheet that you have in front of you is the actual ACE study. This is the first one that was conducted in San Diego at a health clinic. There were 10 questions. You can see it's a survey. You can see it's retrospective. It's completed by adults. It is not completed by children. These were adults reporting on their childhood. There were 10 ACEs included in this study, and there were 17,000 people that completed this survey. And these were people that all were reporting for medical services, medical treatment. All right? So when I tell you that there were 17,000 people getting health care and that they completed this survey, what do you know about that 17,000 people? Anything jump to mind, the participants in this study?
They had access to health care.
Bingo. Who said that? Yeah, they had access to health care. So they probably had insurance. They had another means by which they could pay. I can also tell you that the 17,000 people were predominantly white, middle class. So this is not a study of poor people or, you know, how our work involves people that with socioeconomic problems. This is a study of a middle class population, pretty much like the people in this room that could afford services, could afford health care, and were seeking it out and getting it. And so what was discovered was very, very surprising. They went through the surveys that these people completed, they went through their medical records, and they compiled all of this into data. And so this study started as a study of obesity, but it was just the results were so surprising that that's why we're here talking about it today, because it has ramifications for all of the work that we try to do. And so what was surprising were the public health outcomes. The people that were receiving treatment, the conditions they have, we are able to say now could have been directly caused by adverse childhood experiences. So let me tell you, in 2012, when I started doing this presentation, we were very careful to use the word correlated. We said not cause and effect, there's a correlation. There's a correlation between having some of these ACEs. Well, we're past that now. The ACE studies have been replicated, they're being done in different parts of the country, and so we're saying cause and effect. So what we learned is that ACEs are common. In this population, these are the percentages of people that reported this particular ACE. And so they broke the ACEs down for these presentations into 3 areas. So household dysfunction, you can see the question items under here, neglect and abuse. And so they learned that across this population, ACEs are common. They learned that ACEs are highly interrelated. And so what that means is that if you have one type of ACE, you are likely to have a second type of ACE. And they found 87% of the people that had one ACE also had a second ACE. So here now the ACE score is broken down into by the ACE categories. And so for the presentation I do, we pretty much say 4 ACEs or more. There are some very significant findings when someone reported 4 or more ACEs. But you'll see throughout the slides, I'm going to show you some different conditions. It's pretty predictable. And that's the point of this slide, that ACE scores reliably predict challenges during the life course. And so the challenges we're talking about are physical challenges, mental health challenges, social problems, behavioral issues. So those are the kind of problems we're finding have been impacted by someone's ACE history. So this is a dose-response relationship, and the point of this slide, this is just a general ACE score and health problems. So you see the trajectory. People that reported 0 ACE had the lowest reports of health problems, and then as the number of ACEs increased, so did the percentage of people with health problems. So let's talk about a specific area. So ACEs, smoking, and lung disease. So people participating in the study who reported that they were an early smoking or initiation, current smoking, or had chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. So early smoking initiation means the person that said that they were a regular smoker by the age of 12. And so again, you see that trajectory. So 0 ACEs had the lowest amount of smoking by the age of 12. 4 ACEs, you see, again, you just see that steady. As the ACEs increase, so does the condition. This one's a little off, but 4 ACEs is still your high. It's the cutoff that we use, although some people have gone up to like 8 ACEs or whatever, but we think 4 or more tells the story. And so again, you can see also why some of these people were seeking treatment, so treatment for COPD. So let's talk about smoking for a second. What do we know about smoking? Why do people smoke? Pardon?
It's addictive.
It's addictive. Why is it addictive? How does it get started?
Peer pressure.
Pardon?
Get started sometimes
sometimes from peer pressure.
Okay, peer pressure. What do we know about the drug cigarette? What does it do for us? I'm sure nobody in here smokes, so just guess. Just guess what it does.
Calms us down.
Calms us down, okay. All right, so somebody's feeling stressful, somebody's seems out of control, little anxiety. A cigarette might help take care of that, right? Always, all right. All right. And nicotine, cigarettes are one of the drugs that gives us kind of a little bit of a high. It gives us a little bit of a calming. It's a magical drug that way. It does both things. So if you're a child growing up in a stressful environment and you want to deal with some of those unpleasant emotions, is this kind of an easy way to start taking care of some of those feelings that you're having that are not so good?
That is where the obesity thing comes in interesting, because I started smoking when I was in high school and I was heavier.
Oh, okay.
So that's one of the reasons that
Yeah, all right, all right. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate you guys who share. That's really nice, yeah.
is why
And so you found that it did do something for you.
because
Yeah,
I was heavier than everybody else.
okay,
Definitely.
okay. And you know, people along the way probably told you smoking's not good for you.
Probably not until I was in the 80s, so we could smoke at the high school.
All right, all right.
Those days are gone.
All right. Well, and so we tell people that smoking's not good for them. We show them funny looking lungs and things like that. Does that make people stop?
No.
Okay. All right. So it's not that easy, is it?
Nicotine with any other drug is you have to want to stop.
Yeah, right. And you're wanting some relief. You're wanting those positive feelings. So we understand why kids start smoking. We understand why adults still smoke. Okay. All right. So let's talk about ACEs, alcoholism, and marrying an alcoholic. So you can see in this slide that people that reported 0 ACEs were less likely to be alcoholic themselves. 4 or more ACEs, more likely. This is interesting that just got pulled out and put into a slide, and I really appreciate this. This talks about behavior, and it makes us think about intergenerational transmission, like what happens in a family, how it carries through. But people with 4 or more ACEs, look at the likelihood of that person marrying an alcoholic. So this is pretty interesting, alcohol-related problems. ACEs and depression. Some people are starting to say that ACEs are to mental health what cigarettes are to cancer. There is a clear correlation, cause and effect, that people who experience more ACEs in childhood have a higher rate of depression than people who do not. Now this one's broken out into gender, and with the ACE studies, we're trying to do more of that. We're trying to break it out by gender, we're trying to break it out by race. The reason being, of course, you know, it just helps us learn more, and it'll help us be more effective at trying to prevent and mitigate the effects of ACE. So ACE and depression. You're kind of getting the gist of this now, right? All right. Cause and effect. Not just a theory, cause and effect. So I told you the studies are being conducted everywhere. This is data from various ACE studies and publications. These are examples of ACE attributable problems. And so you look at these, and these are not exotic diseases. This is pretty common health problems. And so these have been attributable. There is a correlation by the number of ACEs that someone experiences and the health outcomes and some behavioral outcomes. Okay. All right, so this far into the presentation, do you feel like your awareness of ACEs expanded? You feel like you're getting a pretty good sense about what this is all about. All right. So let's talk about Wisconsin. So in Wisconsin in 2010, and that's the book that went around, and I should have enough copies of that book for those of you that want it. In 2010, Wisconsin put an ACE module into the Behavioral Risk Factor Survey, the BRFIS they call it. And in that, after it was added, There are telephone samples were conducted. People were given the ACE survey in over at the telephone, and the results recorded. And 4,000 people participated at that time. Now, there's a 2011-2012 brief going around. We're running out of those right now, but that's not a bad thing because we have the 2013 data about ready to come out. And so we added 10,000 adults in 2011 and 2012. So at this point in time, we're up to, by the end of 2012, we have 14,000 Wisconsin residents that participated in this study. And so what did we learn? The same things I've already told you that the ACE study, the original ACE study found. ACEs are common. They're interrelated, and they're associated with all of these types of outcomes. So this is what we found in your home state, in Wisconsin. Now we put this map in here because people often like to see what's going on in their own community. We just like to warn you that, as the sample size gets bigger, this could fluctuate a little bit. But at this point in time, this is what we know about different counties in Wisconsin and some of the ACE findings. Can you see this clearly? Can you see your counties?
Can you tell us what the green means and what the red means?
Yeah, sure. So the green means that 10 to 15% of the people in Marathon County that participated in this survey reported 4 or more ACEs. Okay. So this slide is for 4 or more ACEs. And again, I don't know exactly how many people from Marathon County are in the 14,000, but we're going to keep giving people this map because people want to know this. Something to grab onto. And then I think also when we talk about communities, if you have communities like the Gold, that's less than 10% of the population. Now that could just be a very small number of people. That's possible too. But we maybe want to learn from communities, like why would someone's community or county be doing a little bit better than another. Okay, so what we learned when we said ACEs are common, 58% of Wisconsin adults reported growing up experiencing at least one ACE. Yes, Julie?
I just had a quick question. So were the larger counties like Milwaukee County, were there more people polled or not? Or how did they determine how many in each county?
They were polled. They report where they're from, but I think it said on one of the slides, the population is weighted. So rather than it just be, it's weighted to give the overall sample the percentage of what it would be for each county. So yes, Milwaukee will have the greatest number of people in the sample, but the researchers weighted the information. So, yeah. Milwaukee is always, and I know what you're thinking, that maybe it could be a driver of the state, and it could be, except the research, they weight these, so that doesn't happen. Good question. All right, and so of these 58%, 25% reported having 4 or more ACEs. All right, so here what we're trying to do is we're trying to give you some ACE information, the highly correlated, with a score of 4 or more ACEs, so it's ACE by type. You can see the household member incarcerated in domestic violence. 63% of the people that reported that ACE in Wisconsin had 4 or more ACEs. Okay. So that's what this chart is telling us. What that helps us do too, is target our work. So when you think about children growing up in a household with where one of the members of the household is incarcerated, it's having an impact. Child growing up in a home with domestic violence, it's having an impact. So, okay. So ACE and educational attainment. This one and the income one always jump out at me because this is where I feel like we can make a difference. So this shows you the educational attainment for someone with 0 ACEs and up to 4 or more ACEs. And so if you jump right to a college degree, you can see again that trajectory. People reporting 4 or more ACEs are less likely to finish college. And so I always think if we could lop off 1 or 2 ACEs, we can really make a difference. Some college, again, you're seeing the exact same trajectory. High school graduate, less likely, 4 or more ACEs. Okay. ACEs by income. So income is broken down into less than 25,000 a year and more than, or this is greater than 25,000 a year, and that's less than 25,000 a year. So you can see the people making more than 25,000 a year, the biggest category, are the people that had 0 ACEs. The people making 0 to 25,000, 4 or more ACEs, 22%. So, and here's, again, attempting to break out the data for you. Type of ACEs experienced by income. So, and I don't know how well you can see in the back, but the kind of reddish burgundy color is $1 to 25,000, so less than $25,000 a year. And then the purple is over 25,000 a year. So when it's broken out by income, 36% of the people reporting 4 or more ACEs had an ACE of divorce in the household when they were children. You can see household member incarcerated. You can see like a 3 times different there. That's pretty easy math, 15 and 5. So 15%, 3 times more likely to earn less if they had the ACE of a household member incarcerated when they were a child. And this is ACE score by insurance type. I know I'm pointing out the obvious, but it's my job as a presenter. So 0 ACEs, 46% of the people more likely to have medical coverage, 0 ACEs. At the top of that, 4 or more ACEs, least likely to have insurance coverage. Okay? We did attempt to break out the ACE score by race, although this is kind of a, it says ACE score by race, but it's really only white and black. I can tell you that the statistics that we have been gathering since then, it's going to expand to American Indian, Asian, Hispanic, Latino. So we'll gather more on this. And this is one of those areas too where the sample size makes a huge difference. Going back to your question, Julie, you know, right now we might have a small number of American Indians, so it would have to be weighted. But so right now this is just white and black. And so you can see that whites, ACE scores have a higher 0 ACEs. Okay? And the black population has the higher rate of 4 or more ACEs. And then here's the type of ACE experienced by race. And again, race just being white and black. So 58% of the people surveyed that reported having the ACE, the divorce ACE when they were children, that's the black population. You can see 27% household member incarcerated, higher for blacks than it is for whites. When you jump down to mental illness in household, that's where you really don't see any much significant difference. It looks like whites and blacks kind of equally report having an ACE of someone in the household having mental illness when they were a child. All right, so what do we want to do? Why are we here today? We want to knock down ACE scores. We know from all the ACE data that is rolling in that higher ACEs are leading to these conditions. And if we can knock down ACEs, we can prevent, or we can mitigate. We can prevent or we can mitigate where it's already occurred: homelessness, unemployment, incarceration, disability. So that's what we're here for today. We want to focus on early identification and intervention, and that's where all of you come in, because that's why you're even participating in a group like this right now. So some of the conditions that are attributable to ACEs. Oh, wait a minute. I lost a page here. Oh, no, I didn't. I'm okay. All right, so we know ACEs are common, interrelated, and powerful. So where do we start with this? We know that the population has high ACE scores. We know it increases health and social problems. We know by the alcoholism and some of the different depression slides that there's this intergenerational worry. So this is where we come in and where do we start? And I think where we start is that we start first by having the conversation. So right now you've learned a lot of important things about this condition. And so we want to just start having conversations about it. And I think some of you have already noticed that this probably impacts you on a personal level. You might be learning a few things about yourself. We know that this is impacting the clients that we want to serve, the children that we want to work with. And so I think the very first thing we have to do is we have to have a conversation. So how many of you have worked with families and worked with parents that there will be a lot going on in the household, and the parent will tell you that the child really doesn't really know anything bad is going on? Have you ever heard that before?
All the time.
Yeah. I've heard that before too when I was out there in the field. Do you think it's true?
No.
Did you ever find it even one time to be true? I didn't. Those kids always knew something was going on. They did not know the details, but they always knew that something was going on. So I think one of the things we do as we work with parents is to start having these conversations and help them start thinking about their own ACEs, their own childhoods, and then I think we move forward from there. So here are risks. These are population attributable risks. And these came from epidemiologists that have pulled together the ACE information. And again, we're using the word cause, that ACEs can cause these conditions. I'll just let you study that for a second, if you can read it okay. You'll see in the 2010 booklet on Wisconsin, we have a chart in there specifically for asthma because it came forward in the data. Life dissatisfaction, the way that they queried people about that is they asked them about their ability to complete their day-to-day functions, their daily life. They will ask about what you have gone through like in the past 30 days. So that's what some of the life dissatisfaction scores are about. Okay, and again, they're better described in that book. All right. So we want to focus on preventing ACEs so that we can prevent these things. And so common cause, everyone, all of us can contribute to the prevention of ACEs. We have the power to shift the dynamics. And so like I've already talked with you about, we want to use this knowledge. We want to adjust our approach, and we want to assist families with awareness so that they can start working on these things themselves. Yes?
I was wondering how much education or what has been done in the educational system with regard to the ACE study? Like how much, are they just at awareness level in Wisconsin, or are they actually implementing something?
It's a great question. So specifically you're asking about the school system. And there are school systems in parts of the state that have totally embraced this. They participate in trauma projects. They have school staff trainings. They have mental health therapist trainings in their communities to get them on board with trauma work. And so it is going on, but not everywhere. And usually when we present, we have some people in the audience from schools. And we offer ourselves, it's free of charge. I'm not paid for doing this. We will go to the schools and we will present this information. And we do have people that kind of specialize in areas, schools that are already implementing this, and we may have a trainer that's already worked with the schools. So we're available for that. But yeah, absolutely, where those kids are every single day. And you know, think about the teachers, if they can have really positively impact what a child is going through. Yeah, somebody said it earlier, like, how does a kid learn when he's so dysregulated? You know, I have a nephew that couldn't sit still. You know, I have a nephew that scored high, but he got kicked off the bus. You know, I mean, think about what those kids are going through, and we need to learn more about that so we can work on our approaches, but it's available. If anybody wants it, we'll do it. So let's talk for a minute about, we're talking about prevention. There are 3 core protective systems that make a difference. And so these are the individual capabilities, attachment and belonging to caring and competent people, and then the community processes. And I know that we're getting a little short on time here and I want to have time for questions, so I'm going to buzz through some of this. But we talked earlier about not everybody is impacted the same. And so this is where we really want to get down to it and understand. All right, so attachment and belonging. This slide is important because I want you to see the word competent. So you know how human service professionals, we're always thought of the caring people. We want to help people. There's really competency that goes along with that. Caring is just not enough. And so this is about competency. We have to develop competence so that we recognize this condition, we understand the brain science, and we have approaches that are effective. We also, those children that we're talking about that are dysregulated, we need to help those children build skills also. And so this is where we have to go. We want this attachment and this belonging, and we want relationships with caring and competent people. This is going to be vital. And then the community has a place in this. You saw that with the Wisconsin map, that some communities have tackled this on a community-wide level. I'll just go through this quickly, but Washington State has a process that they call community capacity development. They went through these steps and they found that when they succeeded in one, it just flowed over and built into the others. And they have put that in place back in 1994. Okay. So, moving ahead, ACEs in Wisconsin. We're still gathering data and we're still crunching that data. And we're going to have it on a website. We're going to get it out to you. We're going to come and talk to you. As you leave here today and you go into your professions, we want to work with you on this information. So we're going to keep increasing public awareness. The way I talk to you today, I want you to go out and have these conversations yourselves. I would like you to get this people in your area of work, your field of expertise, your community. We want you to get them excited about it. And we're going to continue expanding the knowledge and use of ACE data within Medicaid and Badger Care. We're working with that system. And since the co-occurrence of ACEs among children of incarcerated parents, since that kind of jumped up as an outlier, we do have a work group specifically focused on Department of Corrections and ACEs. Okay, so lifting all beings, we want to prevent and we want to intervene. And the reasons for doing so is so that we can get rid of some of those things that are making life so hard for everyone. Okay, change is up to us. It is shaped by our thoughts and our actions. Brought to you by Thank you. Thanks for letting me present here today. All right. Now I do want to confess, I don't know, is there anybody in here who saw me present to the Northwoods Coalition? This is your second time hearing this? Okay, all right. Is that camera still on? See, that camera, I just have to say, I feel, this was really hard for me. When Melissa told me that this was going to be taped, I said no. No, no, and she said, oh, but we do. Yes. And so this was hard for me because I feel that camera so strongly. And so I would love to shut that off and let's just have a great discussion now. Talk to me about what you're thinking about. Talk to me about your work. You walk out of here and how this is going to impact it. Yes?
One of the things I had written down from last time I heard this was on that last slide. Let me find it in a second here. But you talked about the question about what happened to you instead of what's wrong with you.
Oh,
Can
yes,
you
thank you.
Speak through that.
Thank you. Boy,
Yeah.
that's great. You
That-
really got that from that first presentation.
As you're
Oh.
wandering, I'm going to give you that just to make sure it picks up.
Okay, I'm pretty loud, but okay. Yes, and so what Erin just reminded me, one of the ways that you can start doing this work on a one-to-one basis, in your relationships or in your profession. And the reason I keep saying about your own personal relationships is sometimes we have to make something personal before we get it. You really do. But the question, I think in the past we've asked people what is wrong with you. The question we want you to start using in place of that is what happened to you. And so I think forever and ever, social workers, we've gathered background on families. We've gathered what we call history. We write it down. We put it in our file. But we really want to start having these conversations. We want to ask that question, what happened to you? And we really want to start understanding and applying what we're learning about ACEs from what we're learning in that question. So thank you. Thanks for reminding me. Yes?
I listened to the statistics, and I'm a training volunteer at the women's community, and that's the best I know for this, so it's fascinating. And because maybe that's what I'm doing, and I'm not in treatment, I didn't hear, I mean, I understand all the ACEs, well, what do you do about that now? And that's maybe everybody else knows now what they would go and do. It's like, what kind of treatments, what kind of, you have these 4 ACE things, the child's witness, or been abused, sexually assaulted, and they're telling you this.
Okay. Okay, it's a fair question.
Is there a treatment? I mean, is the treatment specific? And again, you can't, have
Well,
4
actually,
hours to.
yeah. But actually, I think that one of the things about attending something like this is that we really have to talk about, why should this matter to me? Why should I care about this, and what am I going to do about it? Okay, so treatment services. Somebody that has experienced adversity, someone that has gone through certain traumas, they really may need a therapeutic intervention. They may need to see a therapist, and ideally a therapist who has been trained specifically in trauma. But that being said, many children, adults that we're working with do not necessarily need to go to a therapist. This is something that we can do in our everyday work. And so when we present this information, we've gotten some resistance, people saying, I'm not going to start these conversations. What if they have a meltdown? What if they completely lose it? I don't even know what I'm getting into. I can honestly tell you, since I started doing these presentations in 2012 till now, that has not happened one time. When we talk to parents about their own ACEs, and we gently start this conversation, not the first time you meet them, but as you're building rapport and as you're engaging them, they have what I like to call aha moments. It really opens their eyes. They might know that something bad happened to them when they were a child, but they don't necessarily know how that has been stayed in their bodies and just gone through with them all the way up to where they are today. So we want to start these conversations. We want them to have these aha moments. If they need treatment or something further than that, it's our jobs to help them get it. But I think we're really trying to help people see this and understand it. And then we can apply it in our daily work. Okay? And again, in our personal relationships, I don't know about you guys, but there are people I get impatient with. Am I the only one in the room? No, okay, all right, thank you. All right, so do you know someone that there's something really big going on and they just aren't reacting? And you think, oh my God, don't you see what's going on? Why aren't you reacting? Then don't you see the opposite being true too, that there's something's going on and it's not really that big of a deal and someone is totally losing it? I think that goes back to the way the brain has adapted, the experiences that they've had. And so when we start understanding oh, well, that's why she might react differently to this than I am, I think we've broadened our understanding. I think we start developing our approaches. So we approach and we have this competency and this understanding. And with our personal relationships, I guess we work through it together. With our clients, sometimes we disclose that we understand what they're going through, but we help them understand this and understand each other. So I might be getting a little carried away, but I just think that we can just use this everywhere. I'm just so excited about this topic. We can just use it everywhere.
I believe the ACEs actually start with the generation before what people are treating.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I see it when I look back at my own mother and father who were married for 51 years.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a great childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I was on that thing, where I was lucky. But then I've seen other friends in my children's
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mhm.
So I believe it comes from many generations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they are seeing the intergenerational transmission, and it's always good when we can prove it with data. Because again, if you want funding to do something, or if you want to write a grant, they want data, don't they? They don't want just the touchy-feely, oh, this is a nice thing to do. Yeah, and there's data for this. This has had personal impact for me, too, because of someone, okay, we're on camera, but I'll say it's my husband. You know, he grew up in an alcoholic household. And, you know, so we're married 33 years, and something wakes me up in the night, and I just go back to sleep. Something wakes him up in the night, and oh my God, it's an ordeal. He's up, he can't relax, he's got to know what it is, you know. And I'm just like, get over it. It's nothing. It's the dog. It's some music, you know, whatever. Okay. So I start doing this ACE work. Okay. And I realized that my husband, who grew up in an alcoholic household, bumps in the night were something different for him. So a bump in my night, my growing up in my, not a perfect family by any means, but, you know, not a substance abuse problem, I would wake up, figure out what it is, go back to sleep. If you're a child in an alcoholic household and there's something going on in the middle of the night, you just roll over and go back to sleep.
No, you roll over and still hear it, but don't get up.
Some kids get up and go get in the middle of it. Yeah. Think about our foster care kids. You know, think about that foster parent that creates a beautiful bedroom for the foster child that they're just so excited to have, and the kid wants to sleep in the closet. Why would a kid want to sleep in a closet? Safe. Depending on what he experienced in his household, that's where he feels safe. And so, again, this just has all kinds of implications for all of our work, I think. But enough about me. Other questions?
I think since we're right at 1, if there's any other questions, we can kind of field those maybe after. Like I said, extra materials up here. There was one thing that did get passed out, which was the summary of the 2011 and 2012 Wisconsin ACE report. I don't know if there was enough copies for everybody, but if you're interested in this, come up and grab it. There's other materials, and like I said, extra copies of what handouts you have. Thank you, Paula. You can leave, please do your evaluations. You can leave them right at your spot. I'll pick them up. Have a great afternoon. And we will see you in June. Our June topic is treatment alternatives in incarceration. We're going to have the justice programs here talking about drug courts and OWI courts. So it should be another interesting topic.
And thank you for jumping in and participating today. I really enjoyed you. I enjoy your examples. It makes it so much more meaningful than just the whole talking head thing. So thank you.